Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And this morning, Sampath presented at the Bank of America Communication Conference. And it was about a 25 minute session. And I kind of wanted to talk about that here in this video. I personally, this is just my take, I don't like the strategy for Verizon moving forward. It hasn't worked, right? There are a few changes that they're making, right? Project 624 is still being incorporated. So I get that, but I just don't see the long-term wins in that strategy, right? He mentioned during the conference that you can't expect us to have the best network and not be the most expensive. He mentioned that. So that tells me right then and there, price is going to go up again, and it's going to go up continuously. It won't stop. There is no stopping that part of the business. They're going to use the pricing lever every year, twice a year. I would say comfortably twice a year, they're going to use that pricing lever. They're going to use it. So that's, I think, going to tremendously slow down any progress and any momentum that they may make. Right? There might be some gross ads that they take in because they're promotionally active. Right? He said it. He said it himself, Sampath. July, they were not promotionally active much. The net ads low. August, they recovered because they were promotionally active. That is the only way that they seem to know how to grow, is trade if they trade up some of the acquisition costs, right? Or go up higher on the acquisition cost side, and that's how they grow. That's the only way they seem to know how to grow. And he says, Sampath says it's strategic, right? They on purpose slowed it down in July. The only reason they're doing that is because they don't want to spend as much on acquisition costs, right? So they're picking certain months and say, okay, we're gonna back off this month. We know it's gonna lower our gross ads, but we'll pick that back up in August. So it just, so you're lower in July, but you make up for that in August. So why not just keep it consistently and see what happens, right? So I'm already expecting Q3 to be a negative because of the outage, the price uptake, right? The price increase that's coming on the bills that are generating for September. And then moving forward, I was even told that some of the perks are going to be removed sometime this month. I think it was Apple Arcade and Google. There was something to do with Google. So that's going to tick customers off, right? So it's just, the strategy doesn't work because there's too much competitive pressure in the space. There's too much T-Mobile doing what they do, right? There's too much AT&T and deal making, right? AT&T is going to have tons of capacity that they need to fill. Tons. So they're going to be more aggressive on wireless. They're going to be more aggressive in the mid-sized markets. They're going to be more aggressive on FWA. Sampath did mention that AT&T is now wanting to really join the FWA space. That's more competition. That is competitive pressure on Verizon in an already bad situation, if you will. It's been like that for a while for Verizon. So I just don't see how this is going to work out for Verizon. I don't see it, right? So he did talk about something. This is the first time I think I've heard them admit that they're also only using fallow capacity when it comes to FWA and multi-dwelling units. He did say that. He's like, today, the capital envelope, the capital allocation, everything that we're deploying is only fallow capacity. So beyond 8 to 9 million on FWA, the total subs that they're guiding, they're also going to have to put forth a capital allocation envelope that's going to show, hey, we're going to invest X amount of $1 billion for more densification and infrastructure to further grow that number. So they're ultimately doing the same strategy as T-Mobile, and he didn't really talk about millimeter wave. I thought the millimeter wave deployment was using capital for FWA, where they could, get more customers onto onto FWA using that millimeter wave spectrum. But now what I'm seeing in my market, this is just me, they're removing those millimeter wave nodes and they're adding C-band nodes in those same neighborhoods. And I've heard that's going to scale. So, and other people have messaged me saying the same is happening in their market. So I don't know. It's not a clear-cut strategy for Verizon. I personally think Verizon is still trying to figure it out. All these years later, they're still trying to figure out what sticks, what they need to do. I think they know what they need to do, but they're not willing to take those steps, right? Because they want to be judged on EPS, EBITDA, free cash flow, all the margins, right? But as much competitive pressure as it's on that's on the way, Verizon's not going to be able to sit still. They're going to have to, Sampath is going to be put in a position where he's going to have to constantly adjust. If not, they're just going to take losses. That's just, some stuff was presented at the T-Mobile Summit to the analysts. I know some bits and pieces I can't say here, but it's under NDA. T-Mobile is coming for that part of the business, and Verizon is not going to be able to sit still. Right, they're going to continue to take loss after loss after loss. That's just not going to work. They're going to have to make some kind of change to adjust to the market and the conditions. Right, the value segment is hurting them. They won't admit that publicly, but cable is taking from them. Their own value brands are taking from them. Right, so Sampath said today, they're not really big on prepaid to postpaid migration yet. Their postpaid customers are migrating to prepaid. So something's not adding up, right? They themselves, the C-level executives will never admit that, but that's what's happening. They are simply in a position where they're struggling to figure this out when it's right in front of their face, right? You have T-Mobile competing. You're going to get big competitive pressure from AT&T with all the capacity they're putting on air. They're gonna go big on competing. The problem now is, and I'll close out the video on this. The problem now is for AT&T and T-Mobile camps, right? Their senior teams. They're worried about what Verizon's going to do because Verizon is being backed more into a corner than ever before. So that is the biggest unknown and worry right now is what is Verizon going to do when they're really, really, really backed into that corner. They're getting closer and closer and closer. But at some point, Verizon's going to have to respond to something. That strategy Sampath put forth, it's just not going to work. I'm going to be very honest. I mean, I get they have some momentum, they have some volume, right? But he even said during the conference, they're even expecting FWA ads to come in at the lower end of the guidance range for the quarter. So they're thinking, he said they're guiding to be between 350 to 400,000. They're going to come in at the lower end. So they're trending down once again for the quarter. So there you have it, right? There you have it. That's how I wanted to close out the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.